Welcome to Bled Talk, the podcast where insightful conversations meet language learning. I'm your host, Samuel Bledsoe, and on this show, we dive deep into a variety of topics with fascinating guests from all walks of life. Whether you're an English learner looking to sharpen your language skills, or simply someone who enjoys thought-provoking discussions, Bled Talk is something for you. From engaging interviews to solo episodes filled with knowledge and inspiration, join us as we explore the world one conversation at a time. Get ready for a journey of learning, curiosity, and meaningful dialogues. Welcome to Bled Talk. Well, welcome everybody this week to Bled Talk. We are very privileged. We're very privileged to have Hannah with us. You may know her as Miss Hania. She is an English coach on Instagram. She has a lot of great content, lots of really cool things. And so, I'm going to have all of her links, all of her social media in the comments after this, so everybody go check her out after you watch the episode. But Hannah, thank you so much for coming on to the episode and participating.
Thank you.
I'm very excited. And today, for those of you who have listened in the past before, we're going to do something a little bit different in the beginning. I'm going to ask Hannah some either or questions. I'm going to give her two options, and she's just going to tell me which one is the best option for her. And we'll kind of get through them, and then we'll get a little bit into her story. But I feel like this is a good way for us to get to know you, Hannah, get to know a little bit more about you. So first and foremost is McDonald's or Burger King?
Oh, it's McDonald's, 100%.
Like
100%.
even in Brazil and in the United States, it's McDonald's across the board?
Yeah, McDonald's across the board. I've never really been a Burger King girly. Never.
Yeah, that's interesting because my answer is always like in the U.S. it's McDonald's and in Brazil it's Burger King. Because
let me say that I've never actually been to Burger King in Brazil.
Oh,
never.
Well, think of like a really clean Burger King. Like probably if you could give the best grade you could to a Burger King, that would be like Brazil. Brazil Burger King is top notch. I think they're very clean. It's not like the U.S.
Well, I will go ahead and say that as of right now, it's McDonald's in the U.S. and McDonald's in Brazil as of now. All
right. Well, when you come back, try Burger King because I promise it's a lot better than it is in the U.S.
I believe that. I do.
But good. All right. Next one is Apple or Android?
Apple.
Really?
Apple. I don't know. Something about Android, I just can't get with it.
It's because nobody else is with it. I think that's the
Yeah, maybe.
It's like
I'm on the bandwagon.
Just for you to have an idea, I have a fantasy basketball league, and that doesn't sound cool and out loud, but it's something when you become a dad, that's things that you get interested in. But anyway, so I'm part of a fantasy basketball league, and one of our rules is that everybody who enters the league has to have an iPhone so that our group message can be named and everything. Yeah, and it's specifically because of that, because we need to have names for the group message. You need to be able to interact with everything, so no Androids. So I think
that's
Apple
just kind of rule.
Yeah, and that's just what we'd all decided. They were like, "Hey, do you guys have any friends that have Apple? Have iPhones? And they can join, but nobody on Android."
That's so funny. I'm glad we're on the same page with that one.
Yeah, no, it's definitely just a herd mentality, right? Everybody has to have the same thing. Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix. I like them both, but I always choose Netflix.
I think that's a fair statement. What I like about Hulu though is that they have it's almost like Hulu has more of the content that I was used to watching, like back when people had cable, because that's not really
on cable for sure.
I think that Hulu kind of got a lot of those shows, whereas Netflix kind of has their own thing, which sometimes is really good. Sometimes is okay, but okay.
It's a little cheesy.
Yeah. And Spotify or Apple Music?
Spotify. I love Spotify. Loyal Spotifyer.
Well, I think only people who like Apple Music are the people who have to have it because of their cell phone provider.
Yeah.
But I haven't really met anybody who's like, oh yeah, I love Apple Music. No, there's always like, I have Apple Music because it comes with my T-Mobile or whatever, or my Verizon. Yeah, cool. Okay, and Nike or Adidas?
This is hard. I'm gonna have to say Adidas, but that's just because the shoes. I love Adidas
Oh
shoes. I
yeah,
don't
no.
know. I just think they're a lot better for me than Nike, but I do like Nike, so nothing against
I
Nike.
I think Nike clothes are fine, but like
Yeah.
basically, here's I love playing basketball. Basketball is my favorite sport,
Yeah.
and when I played with Nike shoes, they always break. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had a broken shoe, but especially in basketball, it's terrible. And so they've never broken on me. I love Adidas.
Yeah.
I think ever since I was in high school, like I was probably the only white kid that had like a full Adidas tracksuit, but like that's what I do. I became a hardcore like devoted Adidas fan when I
You
would
know,
play.
rightfully so.
Yeah, when I would play like Xbox or whatever, I would play the basketball games. Like you get to choose your sponsor. I would never choose Nike. I would always choose Adidas. I don't care how many options Nike has.
He's
Adidas
loyal.
Adidas is better than Nike.
You know,
Fantastic.
that's what happens when you make a good product.
Yeah, I guess that you just get someone that and Adidas doesn't get involved in a lot. I mean, I guess they do get involved in politics, but not nearly as much as Nike does. So
They fly
it's
more under the radar.
it's a very neutral place to be. So it's like no one
Yeah.
gets mad at you for liking Adidas.
You
Uh,
know, I have a question for you. Are
okay.
you the type of person that thinks that wearing Nike and Adidas at the same time is wrong?
I depends on what wearing Adidas and Nike. Like at least the shoes and socks need to be the same. Like don't wear Nike socks with Adidas shoes or vice versa. But
That's a good point.
but I do think that if you can match everything, like there's some people who will wear like they'll wear like a Puma short and then like Under Armour socks and then like an Adidas shirt and Nike shoes and like that just it irritates me, makes me
Yeah.
mad. You need
Right.
to
It's
you
a
need to
real
pick.
thing.
Yeah, you have to pick a team. There's no reason for you to just buy one from each and every thing. But some people like it, I guess. Uh, and then Starbucks or Dunkin'.
Well, I worked for Starbucks for 3 years, and I'm gonna have to say Starbucks. I don't have anything against Dunkin'. I think they're a little more on the sweet side compared to Starbucks. I know Starbucks can be really sweet, and they go for it with the sugar, but Dunkin', they're with it.
Right. It's interesting for me because I don't drink coffee, but
And
I do really like donuts. So I think I would choose Dunkin' because I don't know. Does Starbucks have donuts? Like I've
they
just
have an old-fashioned donut, but it's not like you don't expect, when you
right.
think of a donut, you don't go to Starbucks and get
Right. It's
like,
not like a Krispy Kreme donut. It's like just something somebody put together so that you have a donut with coffee.
they're like,
Mhm.
oh, someone might want a donut here.
Right. Well, then the thing is like Starbucks is always full. Like it's like
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A where there's just no stop at all. And so it's like, why do I want to go there? Like I know there were girls that would show up to high school and they'd be like 15 minutes late, but they had Starbucks. So
Yes.
you know why they were 15 minutes late. It wasn't, well, they're like, oh, traffic was crazy. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I don't,
Traffic in Starbucks.
right. The traffic at Starbucks was crazy. They even put a Starbucks right next to my high school and
Yeah,
never stopped ever. Cool.
that's
All
so
right.
funny.
Next is Coke or Sprite.
Wow.
I would say like Coke
Okay.
or Pepsi, but like let's go with Coke or Sprite first because I think that one's hard.
So that one is really hard. I don't know if I can choose. One has caffeine and one doesn't. So it's like for me,
Caffeine free for both,
you
or
know,
caffeine caffeinated. Well, Sprite doesn't have caffeine. I thought it did.
no, Sprite doesn't have caffeine and Coca-Cola does.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know. If I'm going for soda, I'm not a huge soda drinker, but when I'm like, ooh, a soda sounds good, it's a Coke, 100%.
Okay. And then like Coke or Pepsi.
Coke.
Good. Good. You're from the.
Yep.
Are you from Florida? Like, are you from the South or no?
No, I'm from California. I'm
Oh,
from
okay. Because
California, so
in the South, Coke is a very important thing. If you
but
like,
also when
yeah.
I grew up kind of all in different places. So I grew up in parts of the South here. So that could be where that came from, but who knows?
That's a good possibility there. This one's fun. Ketchup or mustard?
Ketchup.
I think I would say ketchup. I think ketchup's easier to eat than mustard, but I really like the tang that mustard gives to things. Sometimes mustard is more important than ketchup, I think, because putting ketchup on everything doesn't necessarily make it good. And
Doesn't change much.
I feel like that is an adult decision to make, is because when you're a kid, ketchup is everything, right? But it's interesting because here in Brazil, for example, this is even getting into culture. They like to put ketchup on everything. And
Yes.
I watched a guy do a video one time, and he was like, I thought it was weird that you guys put ketchup on everything, but now I know why. It just makes it all better. And I was like, if you need to drown something in ketchup, that means it's not good. I
That's
don't
true.
know. Right. I think I was like, ketchup can enhance flavor, yes. But if you need to put half a bottle into one bite, you probably don't have good food, and you just need to
gotta look at your food.
Yeah.
So I gotta ask you, what do you think about ketchup on pizza? You a fan? You not?
Well, I'm against it, but that's because I have a complex. Well, it's not really complex. I have a view of pizza. So Brazilian pizza is good, but it's not pizza in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's a different version, because I always tell people for me, what's important on a pizza is the crust, the sauce, and the cheese. If it has those three things that are really good, it's a good pizza. Toppings just make it better. Whereas here in Brazil, no one cares about crust, no one cares about sauce. Cheese is okay sometimes, but the toppings are everything. And so for me, here pizza sometimes is it's cool that it's stroganoff, but where's the rest of the pizza? And
it just that's cool that it's stroganoff.
Yeah, no, people put stroganoff on pizza. They do in the South, they have chicken heart pizza, and they have all these different things. And I'm like, it's cool, but for example, ketchup. I told my wife, because she loves to put ketchup on everything. She puts on her popcorn or on pizza.
Really? I've never tried that one.
It is good. It is good on popcorn, but she would put it on pizza, and I was like, why do you do that? And she's like, oh, because it's dry. And I was like, that's my point. That's why pizza's bad.
There's the sauce. The sauce is a tomato.
It has to have sauce. And that's the only reason you put ketchup, is if it doesn't have sauce.
Yeah, right. You have to add the tomato somewhere, right?
Right, exactly. So, Taco Bell or Chipotle?
Oh my gosh, this is a hard one. Wow. I'm gonna have to say Chipotle nowadays. I feel like the quality is better than Taco Bell. And also, if you went to Taco Bell to try and get something, it's not a fast food price. You're paying $30 for what you're getting at Taco Bell, And so
yeah,
you could do the same thing at Chipotle, but also have a drink and some chips and queso,
Yeah, I think it depends on the Taco Bell, because I love Taco Bell, love it a lot. But like you said, the thing is if you order off of the dollar menu, then Taco Bell is fantastic. But as soon as you get into the combos themselves, it's just too much. Like going to McDonald's, basically.
Right?
You either get
but you're paying an arm and a leg.
Yeah, you either get value stuff or you're rich. It's one of the two. There's no thing. If you buy every time I bought a combo at McDonald's, I was like, ooh, look at me, I have money. Because it's just so much. But yeah, I think it's a hard one. Yeah. No, I think let's do this one. How about Instagram or Twitter?
Wow. Instagram 100%. And now that it's not Twitter anymore, I don't have it and I don't plan on having it. So I'm not in that world. I was when I was way younger. I loved Twitter when I was younger and maybe in college, but now it's Instagram all the way.
Yeah, I think Instagram is the more professional area, and then Twitter. I feel like Twitter is just made for arguing, and now that it's X or whatever, it's still the same thing. It's just, but it's dumb. It's not. I don't know.
It's definitely not a world where my mind can be in peacefully, and I'm in an era of peace. So.
Right, you just want to have a good day, and Twitter will. Pancakes.
Twitter's gonna ruin it.
No, yeah. Pancakes or waffles?
I love a good waffle. Waffles are delicious.
Like Waffle House waffle or like
I've never been to the Waffle House.
I know it looks a little trashy, but like I promise it's good. Waffle House is very good. You just have to go at the right time and get a good waffle. IHOP is like not a good place. I don't like IHOP. I just
I last went to IHOP, it wasn't good. Never went back.
no, it's always the service is always terrible. So like there's no reason to go. I think pancakes
Right.
are more practical, but like waffles are good when they're made.
Yeah.
Like because they have the little crevices for the syrup, and it's
It's
fantastic.
perfect. I
Yeah.
think about there's three Waffle Houses around me. Two of them have 1 star and one of them has like 4 stars. So I was like, I'll go to that Waffle House one day.
Yeah, go to the 4-star one, but also the 1-star ones are probably also pretty good. Usually it's 1 star because of how it looks. It's the whole can be deceiving kind of thing. And also because there's always
Ticket to go.
yeah, well, you can still eat there. Like I think it'll be fine. Just don't get in a fight or anything like that. And then iced tea or lemonade.
Oh. Okay, well, if I'm going to Chick-fil-A, I'm getting a mix together and a Sunjoy.
Okay, yeah,
But if I'm not, then I will choose a lemonade.
okay. Yeah, I think I would choose lemonade too. I think it's
Yeah,
more refreshing.
yeah, right?
French fries or onion rings.
French fries.
Okay. I
French fries.
I have never been a fan of French fries like my whole life.
Really?
I was the kind of person that when I would go somewhere, I would prefer to get like, for example, when I would go to McDonald's,
Yeah.
I would not buy fries. I would always just buy the burgers themselves and eat that because I just didn't like fries. I mean, I eat them, but
Oh,
like they're not my favorite thing. I know some people who just absolutely love them, but
yeah.
onion
Well,
rings,
that could be a good thing.
you know, but now I have a baby and, okay, I say baby, he's like 1.5, but he likes French fries.
Her
And so,
baby.
yeah, he's still a baby, but he likes French fries. So now I do have to buy French fries when I go to places. But yeah, I think I would choose onion rings. And then the last one, no, second to last one, Batman or Superman.
Oh, I don't know if I can choose. I feel like I'm not educated enough to make this
Just
choice.
like based off of what you like, because some people they
I
have
think,
all of these like deep connections to
yeah,
superheroes, but like if you don't,
right?
just go based off of looks. Who do
I
you like?
think Batman. I saw the Batman movie one time and I really liked it. It was a long time ago, but
You know,
I would say Batman and like the voice that Batman does. I think the persona that he carries, I think Batman is more interesting.
yeah. I like see Batman to me is just depressing, like all the time. He's just always like upset and angry at the world. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't want to surround myself with that kind of negativity. So like Superman is always like happy
Empowering.
about, yeah, he's just a good dude. And he actually has powers. Like he's actually a superhero. Batman is just rich and works out a
Yeah.
lot. Like that's about it.
Now I need to
But
go get into this. I need to get into this and see
yeah,
what
no,
you're
like
what you're feeling.
yeah, I don't know. That's just my thing. I'm not a huge like
Yeah.
I don't almost I'm not a huge like superhero obsessed kind of thing. But like
Yeah.
this has been a discussion for a long time. Then the last one is popcorn or nachos.
Oh my gosh, this one is hard. You
That
came
one's
at me
probably
with
the
this.
hardest one. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is really hard. Well, this really got me. I love nachos. So I'm not even gonna play around here. I'm gonna say nachos. Popcorn is
No.
great. Love popcorn, healthy little snack. But nachos, a whole different world.
Oh yeah, and plus the options with nachos are really endless. You can do lots of different styles. Have you ever had cheesecake nachos before? They're really good.
Oh,
It's
I didn't even know what
I
that would
there
look like or taste
there's
like.
so there's this small little restaurant that was close to my house in the U.S.
Yeah.
and they fried nachos. I don't know if they were like actual nachos, but they were covered in they were like cinnamon sugar nachos basically, and they had like it was like cheesecake filling, but like it was kind of soft, and then it had like caramel drizzled over the top, and it was yeah,
That
cheesecake
sounds
nachos.
amazing.
Very good. Yeah, very
I
delicious.
don't even know if I've had a dessert nacho. I think I need to try that one day.
Yeah, but like popcorn, you can't do like cheesecake pop. Maybe you could, but I don't think.
It'd be hard.
You know, it would be difficult because popcorn's very like squishy. I don't know.
It would just
Doesn't really.
disintegrate.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. So that was our little warm up, and I
It
appreciate
was
your
fun.
honest. Yeah, it was fun. I appreciate your honest responses. So tell me a little bit about you, Hannah. Let's kind of move on to the more like serious part, I guess. But like, how did you get onto Instagram and become this English coach that you are now?
Well, back in 2022, well, it goes way further back than that. So I'm going to start by college. College, I went and got a degree in child development, and I started teaching ages 0 to 5. And love children, love working with children. And so I became a preschool teacher, and that's where they started calling me Miss Hannah. And so this is kind of where Miss Hania came from. And with that, in college, I studied abroad and I went to Spain and I taught English there for a semester. And it was, I think they were 17 or 18. And I liked it. I thought it was really fun to be able to share about my culture and just, have understanding of what they're feeling going and learning a language. And that was it. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, that was fun, good experience. Went back, lived my life and whatnot. So then here, we're going to come back a little bit to the present, jump some details. 2022, of course, the pandemic had happened. I'd kind of like shifted my career goals from like being present in the classroom to kind of wanting something else with a little more freedom. So I decided that I wanted to show up on Instagram. And I guess creating content was something that was really interesting to me. And I was like, all these ideas. And so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna show up on Instagram. But I had no idea how. So eventually I went back and I got a certification to become a holistic health coach. And I learned a lot within those, I want to say it was 6 months of studying. And I got great knowledge and a great foundation of how to be a coach. But I still was like, what kind of coach am I going to be? Like, I don't really know what to do with this. I'm trying to find where I fit in. And that was hard to do. But I don't want to go too far just yet. But basically, that's where it came from. I went and I was like, I want to be a coach. And I know that Instagram is my forte. I feel comfortable on it. I love making connections on Instagram. So that's kind of where I came from, in the fact that I wanted to show up on Instagram and be a coach to somewhere, to someone, somewhere, somehow.
Oh, cool. And so then so you wanted to be a coach, you were on Instagram. So how did English get into the mixture? So how did you become an English coach?
So here we go. I was in Brazil last summer, so winter of 2023 in Brazil. And I had some friends, I would say, mostly friends and a couple family members who were saying how cool it would be if I practiced English with them, did some English conversation with them. And I was like, that's a great idea. That's a really good idea. I wonder how I'm going to do that. I was kind of thinking, well, like, I could just individually have conversations with people, but then I got this bright idea. Well, I could start an Instagram for it, because what a great way to connect with people and get the word out. And I didn't expect it to be much of anything, really, but it started growing, and it started growing way faster than I could ever imagine. Like, I started the Instagram, and before I posted anything, before I told anyone about it, and my family members, they found out about it, our friends found out about it, and everybody starts talking about it. So then it just fell right into my lap, thankfully, and it became what it is now. And it's awesome to see where it's going to go, considering that's how it started. But yeah, I just decided, well, I am a native English speaker. I like to talk and I like to share my knowledge. And there's people out there who like to learn and, especially who want to speak English. So, yeah.
Cool. No, that's awesome. And so what made you speak Portuguese, I think, is another one that maybe a lot of people don't know, or maybe they want to know, is like, why Portuguese? You said you went to Spain and taught there for a little bit. So did you learn Spanish when you were in Spain?
Yes. Yes. So I
Good.
studied Spanish for a long time. I want to say up to 12 years, but it wasn't until 8 years after studying that I really started speaking it. And that was when I went abroad. I was terrified of having conversation. And I remember multiple moments where I could not form phrases because I'm sure of it now that I was nervous. I wasn't confident in what I was saying. I wasn't sure about what I was saying. And so I went abroad and I was like, this is going to help me. I'm going to go and I'm going to immerse myself in the culture and the language, and it's going to be great. So I did that. And I stayed with a family and they only spoke Spanish for the most part. And so it forced me to kind of get into that. And that was awesome. And then I came home from abroad and not many opportunities for practicing Spanish or doing much with Spanish, but kind of really shortly after, like 4 months or so, 5 months after, I met my partner. And we were both studying. We met just on Tinder, so online, and totally not expecting any of this to come from it. But we met, and he was studying there in California with a scholarship to play soccer. So ultimately, he was there to play soccer. He was also learning English. So when we met, his English wasn't too good. My Portuguese, I'm going to be really honest. I'm going to be a stereotypical American here and say that I did not know much about Brazil, did not know much about Portuguese, did not know much of anything about it. The first time I think I heard the Portuguese language was when I was abroad. My Spanish teacher put up a phrase in Portuguese. And one of my classmates, who is Brazilian, she read it. And I listened and I was like, that is so beautiful. I'm going to learn that. I'm going to learn that language. And then I came home and here we go, back to where we are. We met and then he started teaching me a little bit here and there. But I essentially was like, I'm going to learn it. And that's kind of what I did. So now we've been together for coming up, I want to say 5 years. And I have put a lot of my life into the culture and the language. When we first met, we had known each other for 1 month, and he went back to Brazil for the summer. And I was like, I'm going to come. And he was like, okay. And I was like, okay. So I went there. I was like, well, the worst that could happen is I don't like any of it, and I went to Brazil and learned the language a little bit, or I come back with this newfound persona, and that's ultimately what happened. And now it's such a huge part of my life. Portuguese is such a huge part of my life that this is why I chose to go with Brazilians and Brazil
Right.
and Portuguese, because
Like the Brazilian niche.
Brazilians are so cool,
Well, it's fun. It's a fun thing to get into. And I think
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of teachers who they don't have a specific group, right? And they have a lot of good connections and things, but the thing is they can't go too deep into a lot of other cultural things, right? Like
Uh,
there's a lot of stuff that because you speak to Brazilians and you have this connection that you can be like, hey, I understand how you think, or maybe what you think of this, or how you feel, and that really ultimately helps people in the future when it comes to learning. And that's what I found anyway, because for a while I was like, should I go like global and just kind of
I
go
think about that too.
encompass people, but I realized that's not what I want to do. I want to speak
Yeah.
Portuguese. I want to continue helping those people. So it's definitely a thought that kind of comes to mind. And so kind of going a little bit back, you met your partner and he is Brazilian
Yes.
and you are American, like stereotypical American, right? So tell me this, how was getting into the culture of that? Like, because I mean, obviously I have my experience, but I would love to know what it was like for you and him in the beginning, kind of adapting to each other's culture. Do you think it was easy? Was it difficult? Kind of, spill the beans on that.
Yeah, I would say that it was difficult. I would say it was difficult. I'm not going to paint a pretty picture, a pretty love story of it because it was difficult. There's communication barriers. There's so much good in between it, so much good on it. But the fact that we still are both learning different languages, are not each other's languages. And that was something that we kind of had to figure culturally as well. I had to figure out him and why he thinks the way he thinks. And when he does something one way that I wouldn't do, is that a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Like, how does that work in our relationship? So it was difficult, and it's something that took, I'm going to say probably a couple years to really figure out how our dynamics are in the relationship. And there's things that I remember getting so upset over him making a comment that was a joke. But for me, I'm like, oh, that's not a joke. And he's like, I was just joking, and for him, he really was. And me, right. It's so different, and so there's a lot of those barriers that we had to overcome, and especially in communication as well. When it comes to a problem that arises in a relationship, you need to communicate about it. But when you're both trying to do it in different languages and meet each other somewhere, it's difficult.
Yeah. Well, and even when you are like fluent in what you say and everything, I will ease your thought on that, and the fact that even with that, it's still hard because it's cultural. It's you, because like sometimes me and my wife will talk and she'll be like, do you ever not like regret, but do you ever think about like, would it have been easier to just marry somebody from your country? And I was like, maybe, but like, I like what I'm going through. I enjoy the process because for every bad thing, there's 2 or 3 good things that you get from being with somebody from a different culture. I have learned a lot of things that I appreciate, like taking a shower. Americans take showers, but like,
yes,
I something I tell people, I figured this out, I guess, like last year, but like Brazilians take showers because it's something that they like to do. It's an event. It's like something that they plan on doing. Whereas Americans take showers because we feel like we're dirty and we need to be clean. For them, it's like, I want to feel good, so I'm going to take a shower. And so for me now, like going to bed without taking a shower is, I was always somebody who my shower of the day was before I went to bed, but like, but now I like to take shower when I wake up. I like to take one before I go to bed. Sometimes maybe a little midday shower. But that was something that I really picked up on. Like there's other things that you kind of learn. Like for example, this was one that a different lady brought up in a podcast, was that something that she learned about here in Brazil when she was here that really helped her back in the States was learning about the jealousy that they have here, right? Because I don't think a lot of people talk about this, but like for Americans, when you're jealous, it's a negative thing. And I was explaining this to some of my wife's friends, is that it's like, for us, when you're jealous, it means that you don't trust. It means that you don't trust us. It means if you're jealous of a friend that I have that's a girl, then that means that you don't trust me with that girl. And what I've come to find out is that that's not necessarily the case. For them here, when you're jealous, that means that you love somebody. Like to them, that's how they see jealousy. They see jealousy as love. And they also say that it's not that I don't trust you, it's that I don't trust the other person. And I get that. I understand it. But I also told my wife that we were watching Love is Blind, the show on Netflix. And
of course,
so many of those, of the wives of the girls, they were just so jealous of their husbands, and there was like no reason for it. Like there wasn't anything. And we watched it, and my wife was like, "Wow, really? Jealousy is a huge thing." And I was like, and it's ugly too. Like it's when you're super jealous, it doesn't come across as love. It
No,
comes across as like you're angry with somebody and with like it's just anger. It's
yes,
not a
yes,
loving feeling. And
definitely.
so I think that was a really big thing that we had to get through
Yeah.
as a couple, because like, back in the States, you have friends that are guys, you have friends that are girls,
Mhm.
but everybody knows their place, for the most part. You're not going to be friends with a guy who's going to be a little closer
Yeah,
than comfortable, So like,
definitely.
but here that apparently that doesn't apply. And so I think that was a big thing.
Also, and I want to add, that's a very, very good point. I love where the conversation is going because it does show good cultural differences, especially navigating relationships in bicultural relationships. So that's something that I wasn't used to in this relationship, is that he has a lot of friends that are women and his best friend is a woman. And in the beginning, that just took me back. I'm like, that's not possible. That's not possible. How is that possible? Stereotypical American here. And of course, now, 5 years into our relationship, this woman is my best friend. Like she's the godmother of our child. And it's something that it's like, it's so true. In the beginning, there was so much anger and like the typical jealousy that we see in the United States of like, I don't know about the trust here, like what's going on, who is she, what is her role in your life, kind of thing. And now that I have kind of developed a relationship to this culture, I don't see it that way, And if there's anything I'm jealous of, is that he can have a best friend of the opposite sex, that they have such a beautiful relationship, And that's something that I didn't have ever growing up in the United States.
Right. And it's something that I think that it takes getting to know another culture. It takes
Where
becoming friends and kind of just
opening up,
understanding it, right? And
yeah,
like I always tell people that I'm so grateful. Shout out to my wife. I love her very much, and I'm always grateful that she isn't as jealous as the other people that I see. Because sometimes we'll be sitting there and we'll like hear a couple talk about things, and we're like, wow, that is it's crazy. And it's one of those things where, like you said, with time, you get over things, and you look back on like little small fights, and you're like, oh, that was stupid. Like
you know,
I needed to understand more, and I think it
ah,
happens. It happens even when you're from the same culture. It's not, because
oh
obviously,
yeah,
this is my first time being married, so and I hope it's my last as well. So it's one of those things that everyone's like, well, because we're this, and this, we have this, and it's like, a lot of times it's just getting to be with somebody else and living with them for a long time. And
oh
having that other
definitely.
culture, I think, is definitely a plus
Just
side.
add, like you
Yeah,
said, it's for the give and take. You get a little bit more if you're in a
exactly.
bicultural
Because
relationship.
there's always going to be give and take, but I feel like when there's an extra culture, there's more give than
Yeah,
there is take. And
like
how old is it your son, right? Or
yeah,
how old is he?
he is 13 months now.
Okay, and so he's not talking yet, right? Or is he
No,
starting?
just did the bed,
Right, right. Just the
dad, dad,
interesting
dad.
sounds. They're learning how to scream and
No,
how to be quiet. Um,
yeah.
so do you have a plan for teaching English and Portuguese and all of those things, or are you guys just gonna kind of see what happens?
Yeah, so I guess my plan is, as of right now, because we don't know what will be in a couple years, but as of right now, because he is so young, I know from my knowledge in child development that now is the best time for him to learn languages. So we my partner, he uses Portuguese all the time with him in the house. There might be a word or two in English, but we want in our house to encourage Portuguese. And I do my best to do as much Portuguese as possible. Like if I say something in English, I will immediately repeat it in Portuguese. And this is something that also helps me learn a little bit more and practice my speaking. And it is really good for him as well, So I try and give him both of those languages at the same time. He is a child in the United States, and I am a nanny, and I work with children who live here. So he spends a lot of time around the English language, which is awesome because I think that that's important too. But we also, I think, we're focusing more on the plan of how we're going to get Portuguese with him for the rest of his life.
Right. No, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, that's kind of what we do. We obviously, my wife spends more time with him than I do because of work,
Mhm.
but when she's with him, she speaks Portuguese, which is normal. And
Yeah.
then I try to speak English with him. It's difficult because like I don't know why, but when I'm with my wife, I want to speak Portuguese, and so like sometimes it's difficult to be like
Especially being
turning to
in
listen.
Brazil.
Yeah, but I think when we get back to the States, we're going to speak Portuguese at home, and he'll learn English outside. He'll learn with his grandma and his grandpa and
Yeah,
things like that. So it's one of
definitely.
those things that you kind of have to think about it. But I always tell people, I don't want him to forget that he is Brazilian. I don't
Yeah,
want him,
right?
I don't want, as much as I am a proud American and I love my country, I want
Mhm.
him to love his country, both of them, they're both his. And I want him
Exactly.
to recognize both cultures. And
Huh?
I always tell because sometimes my wife is like, yeah, no, when we leave, we're done. And I was like, no, no, we can remember still a little bit, we can, because it'll happen. You have that excitement of leaving and going to a new place, but you'll start to miss it because for
I would
some,
imagine it's gonna
yeah,
kick in.
yeah. Well, the thing is like I think sometimes we forget all of the bad things and start to miss the good things.
Oh,
And
100%.
it's like whenever you go back to visit your family, because it's like you start missing them a lot, and you're like, oh, I miss this so much, and then you get there and you're like, oh, I know why I left. Like you
Yeah.
kind of, you remember why
You
you're missing
know?
things, and so it's interesting. And so kind of shifting gears a little bit from like from children and relationships and things like that. So for you, what is it like coming into, because I feel like you're relatively new in this field that we have, right, of English teachers in Brazil online, like on like that's our group. And
Yes.
what how does it feel to come into it? Do you feel like it's a little overwhelming? Do you feel like there's a lot of
Oh
competition,
my
or like,
gosh. I am so glad you asked this because I think about this every single day. It's so intimidating, but it is also so inspiring. And I think it just depends on how I choose to look at it. I can be intimidated and overwhelmed, and I have felt that 100%. And I have thought, I don't think I'm ever going to get anywhere. I look at everyone in this niche and I'm like, no, I don't know if I could do that. But then that's my self-doubt, and then I have to shift my perspective and thinking, I can do that. It's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the exact same. Everyone is so different. Everyone has something so different to offer that I know there's a spot for me and there's a place for me at this table. I'm 100%. It's just what plate am I bringing? What's the
no,
dessert? Like what drink, that kind of thing. So it is definitely, I've had my fair share of doubts, but I also have just been so like, it's been like a warm hug. Everyone has been so sweet, so supportive, so touching. Like everyone I have met, I'm inspired. I am so inspired by each person that I come across in the niche. And it only makes me more excited to keep going.
right,
It's easy to get lost in the rabbit hole of comparison. Like, oh, I'm not going to amount to what they're doing, like
right.
a
I'm
lot of
not
followers.
really far away from.
Exactly.
Well, and I think,
Exactly.
yeah, I think it depends also kind of like who you get involved with, because
Yeah.
when I got into it, it was there were friendly people, but there weren't a lot of friendly people. It was kind of like a lot of people saw everybody else as competition. Like, I need to be better. But then we always forget something.
Mhm.
Instagram has this wonderful button called follow. And the thing is, you don't have a certain amount of follows, right? You can follow whoever you want. You can
Yeah.
follow two teachers. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, is that as soon as you remember, oh, I'm not really competing against these other teachers. I don't need to be better than them. I just
Mm-hmm.
need to be my best self. One time
Exactly.
I saw a guy who he made a post, and he was really dogging on like native teachers and talking
Mm-hmm.
about how, oh, just because, even native people are not that good, or what he was saying something. And I was like, look, you can either make yourself look really good by pulling people down, or you can make yourself stand out amongst everybody else without messing with them. And
100.
that's all I said. And the guy got really angry with me. He was like, well,
Of
he's
course.
like this. And then I was like, well, if you're the one who's angry about it, then you're the one
The hit
who,
to your ego.
right. You just realize that in what I was talking. Because if you're the person that's just making yourself look better, then that's fine. But if you have to make other people sound bad so that
Huh.
you look good, that means you're not that good.
No,
Because but I
100%.
agree, not all native teachers are, that doesn't, just because you're native doesn't mean you're good. You have to be
Yes.
good at explaining things. You have to have some type of teaching, not
Quality.
degree, quality. Yeah.
Uh,
I know people who have college for teaching English. That's great. That's awesome. But I don't think that's the only thing that makes you a good English teacher. I know plenty of people who went to college and are absolute morons. Like, it's just,
so
it,
true.
yeah, it exists. So it's not like people are always like, well, I went to college. And I was like, yeah, well, I went to Subway. So, like, what's the
Mhm.
difference?
You
Just
know?
because you go to college and that's a really good thing, but if you don't know how to use what you learned, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
I agree with you. I think that it's a very good group of people if you get into the right group of people. But
Yeah. And
the issue is, well, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think we complement each other. Everybody has something so different, and someone wants to learn with you because of you. They choose to go learn with another person because they like that person. They see themselves in that person. They connect to that person, and there's people out there who want to work with me because they like me. They like my style. They like this. There's people who want to work with you because they feel most comfortable with you and your story. They see themselves in you, and I think that just shows that every single person has something unique about them, that there's the competition, it's not fair. It's not a real competition. We complement each other in so many different
Well,
ways.
and I think the issue is we get a lot of teachers who they like to say like, oh, well, this teacher said something wrong, or this teacher
Yeah.
said another thing. And for example, I know a girl who her Instagram page went from like 0 to like 500,000 in like a month.
Yeah.
And it was really crazy. And she had a video that was really famous. And she was talking about, I think it was like, Americans don't say so. And there was other teachers, really big teachers, who attacked her because she
I
made
heard
that
about
video.
this.
But the thing is, and it's funny, I actually did a podcast with the girl
Yeah.
who posted the video. But the thing is if you watch what her video is and what she says, it's totally valid. Like because she
Oh,
says, in my
100%.
experience, yeah, she's like, in my experience, I've never heard anybody say this here. Here's some other
Yeah.
options to not
Yeah.
say so. She's not saying don't say so. She's just saying
Yeah.
here are things that are more common if your goal is to become, if your goal is to
More
speak
natural, more
natively. Yes,
local.
exactly.
Yeah.
And she got attacked for a completely opposite reason. And
Yeah.
I was like, why did this? I get it. I know what they're trying to do. Like the other teacher, I understand why they're attacking, but it's
Yeah.
just like a huge miscommunication. Like this girl
Yeah.
didn't do anything wrong, but these people just come at her and they're like, here's the thing, you can say whatever you want because English is a global language. And I was like, look, English may be a global language, but if you learn English globally, you're not going to speak with anybody. Because the thing
Oh,
is,
100%.
like, if you go to the US, you need to understand colloquialisms in the US. You need to understand why we say what we do. You have to understand a little bit of the culture. In England, it's the same way. In Australia, it's the same way. I have friends who are teachers in all of these countries who completely agree that our English they're different.
So
Obviously,
different.
we understand each other, but they're different. And that's why we teach American English or British
Yeah.
English or Australian English or South African English, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's a reason why there's a group of people who teach it, because it
Yeah.
is different.
And like you kind of mentioned about that follow button, if someone doesn't really relate to what she had said about her experience in her space, That's okay. You don't need to follow along with what everybody thinks or what everybody does. She's talking about her experience. And I think that that's 100% valid. I have heard people say so, but it's also not, it depends like the age group.
Yeah.
She might be a different age group than where I've heard it be said. There might be, I think the older generation uses it a little
Yeah.
bit more than the younger generation, and if I
Well,
have it correct, she's in the younger generation alongside me,
yeah.
so
Like our
it's not
friends
something
never
I
said it. Like
use. Yeah,
so it's one of
exactly.
those things that like for us it wasn't normal, but like maybe because I've asked my parents, I was like, has anyone ever said so? And they're like, yeah, it's normal. And I was like,
Yeah,
when's the last time you used it?
yeah,
And they're always
right.
like, I don't know. And I was like, exactly. It's not that common. But once again, this is all from perspective. And like you said, if you don't like it, don't follow it. And then there were people who were attacking, they're like, yeah, they're trying to sell stuff. And I was like, this lady she doesn't even have a
She
course
doesn't
or
have a
anything.
single offer, right?
Yeah, she's not selling anything. She's just
She's just doing
offering
it out of
tips.
pureness of her soul.
And I felt so bad for her. I mean, obviously she got more famous for it, which is great. But the thing is like, I was like, why are you guys so like hostile? Why? I don't think that the hostility needs to exist.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's just like whenever you get into the questions of like, oh, this native teacher called himself an American. Next thing you know, everybody in South America got angry and was like, you're not an American, we're all Americans. And you go through the whole discussion there. And like, there's just so many things that there's no reason to be angry. There's no
Just
reason.
beside the point,
Like, it's not. Why do you care so
Yeah,
much about that?
right.
So
Take every single thing with a grain of salt. Like, be careful. Every single thing that you consume online, it's so easy to get caught up in it all. But really, all you need to do is take what you need and leave what you don't. And that's kind of how you're going to grow.
yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree. But Hannah, we're getting close to the end of
Yeah.
our discussion. It's been a lot of fun. It's been really fast. But
So,
I would love to ask you to share with us just if you could go back to when you started learning like Spanish and Portuguese and things like that, what would you tell yourself to do differently that today that maybe would have helped you grow a lot better?
I'm going to compare my Spanish journey with my Portuguese journey because I think this is the foundation of why I'm showing up here. And with Spanish, I would have 100% started speaking sooner. I would have spent, I don't know, more time watching more things in Spanish, listening to more music and lyrics. When I started learning it, I was younger. So, it's a little different. But also, I never used it. I never really used it until I went abroad and kind of had to go all in. And that's exactly where I started with Portuguese. I didn't ever, ever take a single grammar class with Portuguese. Never, like I did a couple language learning apps, but not for very long. So I didn't do much grammar, and my grammar is not perfect. But this is where I come from of just put yourself out there, communicate, go for communication over perfection. And I think that that's what I would have done differently my first time around.
No, that's awesome. That is fantastic. Wonderful
Yeah.
advice. And Hannah, once again, thank you so much for
Thank
coming on
you.
to the show. Thank you for the conversation. And
Yeah.
everybody who has questions or comments, you can leave them here or you can send us messages on our social media and we'll respond. And maybe in the future, we'll even have maybe a part 2 where we discuss some of those
Oh,
things. So, like I said, I will have all of Hannah's links, all of her social media and everything in the comments so you guys can find her. But Hannah, thank you once again.
thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you everybody else for listening and making it to this point. And we will see you all next time on Bled Talk. Thank you for listening to Bled Talk. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us for more content. We are on all of the popular podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and we're even on YouTube. Don't forget to send in your questions and your suggestions. Thank you once again and have a great day.